There are things about international expansion that nobody tells you. Not because they're trying to hide them, but because you can only really see them from the inside. From the outside, expansion looks like opportunity, more markets, more revenue, more growth. From the inside, it looks very different. And the gap between those two realities is where brands get into trouble. By the time you see what's actually happening, you've already committed the budget. You're already in motion. And unwinding it starts to become really painful, or certainly the thought of unwinding it seems very painful. So let me show you what it actually looks like before you get there. In the last two videos, we talked about why brands crash when they expand and the 7 specific mistakes they make. But this video is different because this isn't about what you do wrong. It's about what you don't even see coming. The structural realities of international expansion that nobody puts in the pitch deck. The things that catch experienced, intelligent founders completely off guard. Not because they miss something obvious, but because these things are only visible once you're inside them. Think of it this way. In the last video, we talked about how to avoid crashing the bike. In this one, I'm telling you about the road conditions nobody mentioned when you set off. Here are the 5 things that nobody tells you. Truth number 1. You will lose money before you make it. This is the first shock and catches almost everyone, even brands who've been told to expect it. The mental model most founders carry into expansion is new market equals new revenue. And that's true. And it's certainly true eventually. But between entering a market and profiting from a market, there's a phase that nobody glamorizes. In fact, they don't really talk about it and they try to fast track it. Because you've got the investment phase, if you like. You spend on structure, compliance, localization, market tests, logistics setup, maybe even travel to the region. You spend before you have the right formula. You spend learning what works. And here's the dangerous part. It doesn't feel like losing because revenue's coming in. Orders are going to arrive and the market's probably going to look active. But underneath the surface, costs are stacking faster than returns. Margins are unclear. Cash is leaving faster than it's arriving. And this is what I call riding uphill while thinking you're on flat ground. Your legs are working, the wheels are turning, but you're burning far more energy than the speed suggests. The brands that handle this phase well are the ones who planned for it. They knew the investment phase was coming. They'd modelled it. They'd had the runway to get through it. The brands that don't handle it are the ones who expected profitability on a timeline the market simply didn't deliver. Here's the truth. Expansion is an investment phase first. And you need to treat it like one. Here's truth 2. Everything takes longer than you think. Now this sounds like a cliche, doesn't it? But it just isn't. The time lag in international expansion is one of the most disorientating things about it, because it affects not just your launch timeline, but your ability to learn and make decisions. Some things just take longer than expected. When you're dealing with local governments, it can be a problem. Compliance approval takes longer. Marketplace onboarding takes longer. Customs clearance takes longer. Finding and integrating the right logistics partner takes longer. All of these things typically take longer when they're further afield. And then there's the strategic time lag. The decisions you make today about messaging, inventory, pricing, and even positioning won't show up clearly in your data for 3 to 6 months, maybe even longer. So you're operating in a kind of a delayed feedback loop, I guess. You make a call, you can't see the results yet. There's nothing worse as a founder entrepreneur than that. You make another call based on incomplete information. The results from the first call start coming in, but now you're already executing on something different. This is like steering a bike when the wheel responds 5 seconds after you turn the handlebar. You can still ride it, but it requires completely different kind of patience and anticipation. The brands that survive this are the ones who make decisions with long time horizons, who don't panic when the first month's data looks wrong, who understand that in international expansion, the signal takes time to appear. The truth is, expansion is slow until it isn't. Your job is to survive the slow part with clarity, but not anxiety. Truth number 3, complexity multiplies, it doesn't add. One market feels manageable, a second market introduces more moving parts, but you adapt. By the third, fourth and fifth market, something changes. Not gradually, sharply. Because complexity in international operations doesn't accumulate linearly. It's going to compound. Multiple tax jurisdictions to manage simultaneously. Multiple fulfillment flows with different partners. Different lead times, different return processes, multiple currencies creating exposure you haven't modelled. Multiple customer service standards to maintain across different languages and the expectation of those cultural differences. Multiple regulatory environments that all need to be tracked as they change. All of this has to be visible to a central team in a reporting structure that creates or actually gives you clarity, not just more numbers. Most founders hit a point somewhere between markets 2 and 4 where they look up and think, I can't see the business clearly anymore. What is going on in my own business? That's complexity compounding faster than the infrastructure can handle it. The brands that scale across many markets don't do it by being smarter or working harder. They do it by building systems that absorb complexity without breaking, by investing in reporting, operations and structure before they feel like they need to, not after they can't live without it. And here's the truth, expansion doesn't add work, it multiplies it. Build for the multiplied version, not the current one. Here's truth number 4. Expansion exposes your business, it doesn't build it. This is the one that's going to land hardest for some of you, because a lot of founders go into international expansion thinking it's going to solve their problems, it's going to add more revenue, it's going to bring profit. Growth is slowing at home. Expansion will unlock new demand. Margins are squeezing. New markets will give us scale. The team feels stuck. Expansion will create energy and momentum. And all of those things are true and false at the same time. Sometimes those things are partially true, but not in the way people hope. Because expansion doesn't build strength, it's going to reveal it. Whatever is strong in your business, clear operations, margins, reliable systems, an amazing product, expansion is going to amplify that. You carry it into new markets and it's going to compound. But the opposite is true as well. So whatever is weak, messy reporting, unclear unit economics, over-reliance on a few people, operational processes that only work because someone is manually compensating, expansion is going to amplify that too. Faster and at a greater cost. Poor systems don't get better with more volume. They break under it. Weak reporting doesn't become clearer with more markets. It becomes more confusing. Processes that barely work for one country simply don't work for 3. This is the moment most founders have. Somewhere in the middle of their expansion journey where they realise the problem isn't the market, the problem is us. And that's a very difficult position for a founder, business owner, entrepreneur to really get their head round. The ones who reach that realisation early enough, who go back and fix the foundation before they try to build higher, those are the ones who come out the other side with something real, something strong. The truth? Expansion is a mirror. Make sure you're ready for what it's going to show you. Truth number 5, cash flow becomes the entire game. In a domestic business, cash flow is important. In international expansion, it is everything. It's the one variable that ends businesses that otherwise had every right to succeed. And here's why it catches people out. It's not that they don't know cash flow matters. It's that they underestimate how dramatically expansion changes the cash cycle. Stock has got to be committed further in advance because lead times are longer. Transit takes longer, so cash is tied up for goods that aren't generating return yet. Payment terms with distributors or retail partners often stretch longer than at home. In some markets, the regulatory or marketplace setup means delayed payouts. None of those things are ideal from a cash flow forecast perspective, from a business owner finance perspective. Meanwhile, fixed costs, team, infrastructure, marketing, keep running on their usual schedule. Of course they do. So the gap between when cash leaves and when it comes back widens significantly. And if you're growing fast, that gap widens faster than the revenue growth covers it. I've seen brands with millions in annual revenue, brands with real demand, real customers, real product market fit, go into a cash crisis in the middle of expansion. Not because the business was failing, but because the cash cycle had stretched past what they planned for. The discipline is to model cash specifically and obsessively. You need an amazing finance person inside your business. Not blended P&L, not revenue projections, cash. By week, that's the position at 2x volume. At 5x, what are the pinch points? What does the business need to have in reserve to survive them? What does the cash flow forecast really look like for your business? Here's the truth. Profit doesn't kill businesses in expansion. Cash timing does. Model it before it models you. So those were the 5 truths. But where's the turn? Here's what's striking about all 5 of these truths. None of them are secrets. None of them are unique to one brand or one market. I've seen it time and time again. They're structural. They happen to almost everyone who expands internationally because they're built into how expansion works. And yet, most brands still get caught out by it, despite how many times we talk to them and let them know. Not because they're careless, not because they didn't try, but because from the outside, expansion looks like a marketing decision. But it's not. Launch in a new country, run some ads, ship some stock, see what happens. But from the inside, from where we sit, having worked with thousands of brands through this process again and again, it's an operational decision, a structural decision, a capital allocation decision. And the brands that treat it that way from the very beginning are the ones who get through the difficult middle phase and come out the other side with something that lasts. So if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. International expansion is not won at the front end. Ecom isn't won on the front end. It's not won by who launches fastest, who spends most on ads, who enters the most markets first. It's won at the back end by who builds the best structure, who manages cash most carefully, who builds systems that can absorb complexity, who understands their unit economics deeply enough to know when they're winning and when they're not. The brands that look like they're winning from the outside, moving fast, entering markets, growing revenue, are sometimes the ones furthest from sustainable global expansion. And the brands that look like they're going slowly, one market, tight structure, careful sequencing, are often the ones building something that actually lasts. Go slower to go further, faster. In the next video, I'm going to show you what it looks like when this is done right. A real brand, a real expansion from 5 mil to 15 million, and exactly what made the difference. Because understanding what goes wrong is half of it. Seeing what success actually looks like from the inside is what changes how you think about your own next move.